Hey everybody, this is my brackish tank and I've got a figure 8 puffer in here, but he's very upset with me right now. I just wiped down the glass so we could do a little more clear video, and he really was not happy about that at all. He was all splashing around, and now you can see he's hiding underneath the power head back there sulking. So I want to feed him, but I want to wait till he settles down a little bit and comes out. So I wanted to mention that as much as you might not think a puffer is the kind of fish that would be a jumper, they actually can be. When they get really stressed out or overly excited, they will try to just climb up out of the tank, apparently. I've had him breach the surface on many occasions. Fortunately, he's never actually come out of the open lid, but he was fussing around in there so violently a little while ago, a few minutes ago actually, that if I had an open top tank, as I used to keep him in, he would have come right out the top of that thing. So it's really surprising that I was able to keep him in an open top tank for as long as I did. I kept him in that tank for a couple of years, and I never had any issues with him jumping out of it. I also treated it very gently. I walked past it very carefully, and I made sure I didn't do anything to startle him unduly. And today, all I did was wipe down the glass. I've been doing this for years and years. You think he'd be used to this kind of stuff, but boy, it really upset him. And he still is just going to hide underneath that power head. Let's try putting a little bit of food in there and see if that doesn't get him to come out. Tonight he is getting bloodworms. And I'll try just putting a few in at first, and we'll see if he doesn't come out. See, he knows what's going on. He knows there's food in here. He's just fussing and being a baby. What he's looking for is the floating krill, which is what he actually prefers. So let me get him a piece of floating krill. Now he's going after the bloodworms that he sees floating around, but he really likes this freeze-dried krill, so let's give him a piece of this. And see if we don't hear him actually munching and crunching right there up at the surface, because he makes a lot of noise when he does it. Sorry about this camera work. I'm not able to look at three things at once here. Alright, let's see if we can do this now. He really enjoys the snails, but the freeze-dried krill is his staple food. That's what I give him on a daily basis, for the most part. A couple times a week he gets some bloodworms, and then I throw some snails in there from time to time, and he just sometimes eats the snails as soon as I throw them in. Sometimes he hunts them. He will now spend the rest of the evening perusing the tank, looking for any of those bloodworms that floated around into the corners. He's also going to be on the lookout for any more krill, in case it's still floating around in there. Sometimes he does miss some, and it floats to the bottom, and we wind up with shrimp just sitting on the bottom, sort of rotting away. That was the case the other day with him. Look, there he goes again. He just found it again. The piece of krill is still floating in there. He just darted after it, but I think me trying to point the camera at him is scaring him away. He's still really camera shy. But he's got plenty of those little bloodworms blowing around the tank. If you'll notice, I have that power head over in the corner. Well, of course you did. The whole video started out for the first 2 minutes of him hiding underneath the power head. But that swirls those little bloodworms all over the tank. And a few get picked up by the filter and sucked in. So I do lose a few that way. But surprisingly, the power head is pointed right at the filter, and it actually sort of blows the bloodworms past the filter, and they don't get picked up so easily. And as you can imagine, yes, puffers are dirty fish. All of the bloodworms and the krill, they are a very high protein animal. And so when you've got these uneaten bloodworms that get sucked into the filter, and you've got little bits of krill and dead pieces of meat and snail, very, very high bioload for such a small animal. If you follow my videos and you watch regularly, you'll know that a lot of my tanks, probably even most of my tanks, I could say, I won't go so far as to say they're overstocked, but I will hold my hand up to them being very heavily stocked. And you'll notice this tank is not. It's got a few little bumblebee gobies in there, and I got a couple little endlers guppies, and then I've got Butterbean. And that is because Butterbean is a force unto himself when it comes to bioload. So I've got a big oversized filter on this. I got a 40-gallon filter on a 20-gallon tank, and then I've got additional biofiltration material in the filter as well. So I'm well equipped for the huge bioload. But it's also a lot more manual labor. You got to do water changes more frequently, and then of course we've got the brackish water. So the brackish water requires a little more labor and effort if you're planning on keeping a figure 8 puffer. But puffers in general are just a little higher maintenance fish just because of the nature of their diet. Very high protein diet and a very messy eater. A recipe for a big bioload. Honestly, even if they weren't a messy eater, if they're just eating tons of protein, it's going through them and they're pooping it out, and it's still in the tank and it still adds to the bioload. The fact that they're messy and a lot of the food, maybe half the food that they munch on, doesn't even get eaten, it just gets spread around the tank. It makes for a messy tank as well as a high bioload. In fact, having a few other small fish in the tank with him helps sort of clean up the mess. I generally don't feed them specifically. I just feed the puffer, and the mess that he creates and all the little debris and little bits of food and stuff that go swirling around the tank from him munching and crunching winds up being food for the gobies and the endlers there, so it all works out for everybody. I just kind of feed him, and the rest of the tank sort of takes care of itself. I do feed the other fish occasionally. I make sure they get food. I do keep an eye on them. I don't just rely on them getting his leftovers, but for the most part, they're well fed just on his leftovers. So there you go. That was a lot more than I wanted to shoot, but he is just a fascinating fish, and every time I get to stand here looking at him, I like to watch him swim around for a little while, and this time I happen to have a camera in my hand, so you got to enjoy it with me. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. You never know what you're going to get with me, and you don't want to miss any of it. Don't forget, this is my brackish tank, and that is my figure 8 puffer, not to be confused with my pea puffer tank that I have upstairs. I just shot a video on my pea puffer tank a little while ago, so you can check that out if you're interested. Thanks again, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you real soon in the next one.